All right. Well, as I mentioned, happy Tuesday. I hope weather in everyone's cities and wherever they are is getting better and we're getting into summer here. So I'm so excited today. I am joined by Emily Steele, who is the CEO and co-founder of Hummingbirds. I'm really excited for her to present all about Hummingbirds and what they're about. Super, super cool company and organization that we are lucky to have joining us today. So my name is Erin. I am the Director of Marketing here at Bandwango. If you are not familiar with Bandwango, we are a digital software that helps organizations connect with their local businesses through digital experience passports. So that is a mouthful. Really, we help you all combine local businesses or local landmarks onto a digital experience passport, whether that be a savings pass, a gamified pass, a check-in challenge. We do it all. So any questions that you have during this presentation, please feel free to stick it in the chat, stick it in the Q&A. We'll have a few minutes at the end here, or as much time as we need to go over the questions that come in. But first and foremost, I'm going to pass it over to Emily so she can introduce Hummingbirds. And I'm going to get your slides up here, Emily, so that we can get started.
Okay, thanks so much for having me. I was so excited when we officially connected like a month or so ago, and for this opportunity to connect with people in the Bandwango community and just get to know your team too. So thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm Emily Steele. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Hummingbirds. And it's funny, this actually marks like 5 years of entrepreneurship. And so it's been fun to reflect on building this from the ground up and where we are today. So just to dive right in, I think, every good story starts with an oat milk latte, and I might be biased because it's my coffee of choice. But just to give a little bit of background, in 2018, I'm here in Des Moines, Iowa, and a local coffee shop was opening, and they had this drink called an oat milk latte. And my friend Kylie had posted about it on her Instagram stories, and I was like, "What is oat milk?" Like, it probably was popular years ago, and I was just becoming relevant in my mind, but it was new to me. And so I hopped over to the coffee shop, tried it, absolutely loved my experience, shared it on Instagram, just like Kylie did. And I noticed a handful of my followers, friends, acquaintances, then going to Horizon Line and getting coffee and doing the same thing. So this behavior, this little ripple effect of people sharing their oat milk latte experience it felt like just taking over Des Moines. And that really got me thinking, as a marketing professional, as someone who is influenced every single day on Instagram, what does it look like when local people come together to amplify the local businesses in our community? And so what started as me and like 10 friends coming together to try amplifying local brands, local events, has turned into hundreds of local content creators across the Midwest, now really focused on experiencing and amplifying place-based brands and businesses. So I really want to spend some time today talking about the strategy, how to think about content creators and influencers, and how to make decisions that are really strategic and impactful for your business. Because I think there's a lot of information in the influencer content creator space that isn't as relevant for place-based businesses or locally based brands. So I want to debunk some things and really hopefully lay a foundation that you can take a nugget or 10 nuggets and run with on your own. So to give you a very exciting circular graph, this is kind of what we look at in the influencer space right now. If you look at kind of the top tier influencer, we're thinking like, Kim Kardashian or Oprah Winfrey, these people with millions of followers are mega influencers. They have tons of influence all over the globe. And they're very expensive to work with, as you can imagine. And then you kind of go down the tier of influence, and we're looking at like $500,000 to $1 million, $50K to $500K. It'd be weird to call yourself a mid-tier influencer. I'd find that very strange to identify that way, but that's what we're seeing. And then a lot of people in the world of influencer marketing or working with influencers are very familiar with micro influencers. So when you look at it just from like an Instagram alone metrics and follower count, we're looking at 10,000 to 50,000 followers would identify you as being a micro influencer. And then finally, the kind of last category is where we play, and it's that nano/local influencer. Nano, being small, local being like hyper local and who their friends and followers are. And so there's multiple tiers that impact how you decide who to work with, when, why, budget, etc. So we'll kind of walk through that. Now, when I was creating hummingbirds back in 2018 and conceptualizing this, I really knew that we were playing in the world of influencers, but this wasn't influencer marketing per se. Is word of mouth marketing, which is why influencer marketing has become so successful so quickly, because we all like word of mouth marketing impacts us every single day, right? Online and offline. And so when we look at the hummingbird side of like how we're trying to impact place-based brands, we're focusing on bringing together people who don't necessarily say, I'm an influencer. They're everyday people. They can influence their peers, their fellow coworkers, their neighbors, their favorite baristas. They love sharing social content as a hobby, not a job. Their content feels like a recommendation. They do partnerships with brands for fun. And the content can feel really authentic because there's not cash attached to it. And most of their followers are local. So that local behavior can come from their content. If you look at influencers, there's usually a niche category. When someone's an influencer, maybe they're a wellness influencer or a fashion influencer. And so if I'm choosing to follow someone, it's because I maybe love home decor. And so I like this person's style and I want to get her tips and her resources and that sort of thing. That's kind of that micro macro influencer space. Oftentimes social sharing is their job, and it's advertising when businesses and brands work with them. They're paid deals. And that's awesome. And I would never knock influencers. I think like it's a really cool job, and that's just not the space that we play in specifically. So I like to just clarify that. Sometimes the content can feel less authentic depending on the influencer. It can just feel like a grid full of advertisements, and people get paid for this. And that's, we're aware of that because consumers are very savvy. And oftentimes the followers aren't localized. When you have 50,000 followers, the likelihood of them all being in or around your city or your location is just really not likely. And so when you're thinking about, okay, do I incorporate content creators, influencers, et cetera, into my passport or whatever you have going on specifically in your marketing efforts or upcoming campaigns or launches, I think it's really important to think about who you want to work with and doing your homework. So I pulled an example of someone. I grew up in the same town as this individual. And so it's kind of fun to watch her journey as becoming like kind of a macro influencer. This is Nina Williams, and she has like over 250,000 followers. And you can see like just a quick snippet that a lot of her content is home decor. She has like this beautiful home. Her husband does, I think, custom homes, and she's a great follow if you like home stuff. And her content is primarily that. But you can see in her bio, it says that Iowa is a big part of her like identity on Instagram. So my question always is for things like this, brands get really excited. Oh my gosh, I can work with this person. She has 250,000 followers and she's in Iowa, and that's where we want to make an impact. My question is always, does she have influence in Iowa, or does she just live in Iowa? Because there's a big difference between someone who has influence just in Iowa versus someone who has influence over like the home decor design space, right? And so it's really understanding, what does this individual's followers care about? Can this person actually drive local behavior? I imagine most of you are here because the title of this is about driving hyperlocal success for hyperlocal places and landmarks. And so when you're thinking about this and working with influencers, content creators, can this person drive local behavior? Do they have a network of local peers, followers, friends that they can influence and they can engage with for something that you want to amplify, which is likely your passports? So like I said, just to reinforce the value of finding local everyday people in a community you want to work with, it's looking for those people who love supporting small businesses, who are active on social media, who feel really authentic in the way they show up. Not necessarily calling themselves influencers, but being someone who has local influence. Now, this is specifically what we built because we know that this type of influence in a local community can benefit dozens, if not hundreds of brands in a specific city. So this is essentially what we're doing in the influencer space that we're really excited about and have created a lot of impact for different place-based brands of all shapes and sizes, from local mom and pop shop to regional grocery enterprise companies. And, the reason this is all relevant today, now more than ever before, is because there's a really massive shift happening when it comes to consumers who have the buying power. We know that the buying power is shifting to millennials. We know that 85% of women make purchasing decisions for themselves and their families. So, where are these people hanging out? They're hanging out on social media. They're scrolling Instagram probably right now as they're running a quick errand in line at the grocery store. I don't know. I don't want to say bored at work because that would not be a good thing to do, I suppose. But they're spending a lot of time there between shows, etc. And they're making decisions about what to do this weekend, where to travel with their family, what to do next weekend when they know that, a big event's downtown, what businesses are they going to stop by? And the reality is, these individuals don't necessarily trust traditional advertising. And so when you're thinking about where you want to create the most impact, you think about what audience you want to capture. If it is this segment of millennial women, then it makes a lot of sense to do campaigns and partnerships that are aligned with these individuals, hummingbirds, or the individuals you find in your own community. And we just look at the reality of how people want to make decisions. If we just ask ourselves as individuals, like, how do you prefer to buy? We know that most of us prefer when our friend, our neighbor, our peer makes a recommendation. It just hits different, right? If your neighbor's like raving about a new taco place, let's just say a new taco truck in town, and is telling you about all the amazing salsa options there are, and how, like, I don't know, there's like maybe a mocktail or different daiquiri or something that you can get as part of the experience. That's a different thing than seeing a billboard that's trying to capture a quick picture and like a snippet of what the brand encompasses, right? And so we know consumers want to make decisions this way, 92% of them. And so how do you capture a real person's voice to amplify whatever you have going on, knowing that this is the way people want to make decisions? So when you think about leveraging local content creators, like if your wheels are turning, hopefully you're thinking about ways. I think, by going this path, let's just talk through some of the things that you get from this. And of course, I'm a marketing professional, so I nerd out on things. So I'll try not to be too nerdy about it. But the reality is, like, you get to borrow the trust a content creator inherently has with their peers. Like, a billboard doesn't necessarily have trust with its audience. It's just like a big metal structure, right? And so when you think about you're borrowing someone's trust, like someone hit a follow button or a friend button, they have opted into hearing from someone. This like idea of permission marketing exists, where other platforms are typically what we call like interruption marketing, right? We're like pushing a message out, hoping we catch someone as they're like, in between watching a show and another show or through radio. And so this interruption marketing works, right? Like over time. But when we look at the permission side, we're seeing that people have said, yes, I want to hear from you. I want to get your emails. I want to hear from you on social media. And that has a lot of weight. You also have the opportunity to reach hyperlocal people through word of mouth marketing. We know it works. And we know that one person making a recommendation has a lot of weight. Also, you can drive awareness and action, resulting in shares, purchases, and more. What I love about seeing local content creators and our hummingbirds kind of boots on the ground sharing their experience is that there's so much that happens from the comments, the likes, the reshares, but then you see the other side of people actually purchasing tickets, driving behavior, resulting in sales. And it's really incredible that it can hit kind of top, middle, and bottom of funnel in terms of kind of closing the loop on awareness to sales. And then it introduces your brand or offering in a really relevant way to a demographic that's making decisions right now online and on social media. And so for me, when I think about this kind of content creator play, it says something about you as a brand when you're choosing to move from either traditional spend to this type of spend in digital and content creators. And I think people notice that, and they notice where you show up with your advertising, and it says something about you. So if you're thinking about your partnerships and thinking about working with content creators, there's kind of three ways to think about the value of creating a campaign. So when we are looking at setting up campaigns inside of our platform with customers, it's really addressing three things that the customers want to see. First and foremost, there's always a customer acquisition play. when you work with a content creator, those people become a customer because they have to become a customer to experience your brand offering to then post about it on social media. So if you know the lifetime value of a customer and you can really kind of understand how often that person comes back for business, repeat purchases, you can really kind of quantify the value of that individual and look at the ROI. And so customer acquisition is a really strong angle that customers really like to take from this strategy. And then second, there's looking at user-generated content. Like we all know how expensive it is to like book an entire photo session, photo shoot, like trying to demonstrate what a passport is like in action and people curated in the community and like getting video and all of that. It's a huge production. And so we found that people love the kind of just the organic, like everyday iPhone photos that depict the offering or the brand in a way that maybe is kind of surprising and exciting. And it happens, and you can reshare that content. And, it's such a different experience than something that's highly curated, highly professional versus someone just snapping a handful of photos on their phone. And then finally, there's a handful of customers that really love to understand and dive into the data of reach and impressions and understanding, okay, if I work with this individual, how many people can she reach or he reach or they reach with their post? And how many impressions does this get me? Because oftentimes, if you're creating a campaign to launch a passport or to launch a new experience with your brand, like you want as many eyeballs on as possible. And so you're likely doing a lot of different tactics inside of a launch campaign. And so content creators can be one of them. So the way that some brands really look at the holistic success of a campaign is taking the reach and impressions, because most platforms and advertising channels have that access to data. Now, I think what's really important, and again, my marketing nerdiness is showing, is that when you look at the weight of an impression from a TV ad is very different than an impression from your friend posting on Facebook about the same thing, right? And what we're seeing is that a word of mouth marketing impression typically results in 5 times more sales than a paid media impression. So it's just, again, looking at like, okay, impressions aren't equally weighted out, right? And that's like kind of overly sophisticated. But if you're someone who's like, okay, should this impression be the exact same as a radio or as a newspaper or whatever? The answer is no. They have different weights to them. And so just thinking about, okay, this person has 1,500 followers and got, let's just say 1,500 impressions to keep it simple. Like, wow, I can get 150,000 impressions when I do TV. That's so much more. But then you kind of look at what's the trust level that person has with a TV ad versus a person. And so my hope is that like it just gets your wheels turning, because sometimes numbers can be really impressive when we look at impressions and reach, but it's the impact of those impressions and the trust associated with those impressions. So the fun part, we just pulled together a few examples of campaign ideas that maybe could get your wheels turning if you're a Bandwango client and you've been using the passes in different ways. My teammate Lexi pulled some of these ideas together. She's super creative. And so I love, we just have a few of them. So to just go through with you to think, okay, if I'm going to start a campaign and do this for the first time, like how am I going to think about this? And so the Indie Attraction Pass is a great idea. So campaign idea 1, explore Indie in your own backyard. It's about inviting hummingbirds, local content creators to showcase this passport in their own city, to get their own peers excited about like, engaging in their own markets. And for when we think about how to get people excited about this, it's all about perks, right? You don't necessarily have to compensate people thousands of dollars to do it. It's like, hey, give someone a free one-day attraction pass to go out and try it. I think it gets people in their own backyard excited to re-engage in their city and give some love to Indie. Second one, your Indie day trip. So inviting in Cincinnati hummingbirds to bring their families for the day or experience Indie and share their experience on social media. And it could also encourage, I think I love this idea, Lexi, of using Culinary Trails Passport as well. So like continuing to increase the impact there. And then finally, Indie Weekend Getaway, Attraction and Culinary Pass promotion, invite hummingbirds from other Midwest communities to visit Indie and explore all it has to offer. So taking that like local approach, a little bit further out. And then like, hey, how do we get other people from other states? We know that's a huge draw for tourism organizations to get out of state people into specific communities to drive those hotel motel tax dollars. And so there's a lot of ways to think about it. So this is what we kind of came up for Indy. I don't know if anyone is like on the call from these organizations. It'd be fun to hear your feedback. But next up is Madison on Tap Crafted Beverage Trail, which sounds really exciting. Adding this to my list personally. So campaign 1 is Party on the Patio, Craft Beer Crawl, dedicating a single week or a day to a hummingbird visiting various breweries from the trail and giving them different gift cards to selected breweries you'd like them to visit. And you could do different breweries. You could have the same one where everyone shows up at the same time to get a ton of different selfies and photos and reels and all of that sort of thing. But it's a one hit thing. You get a ton of buzz at the same time, all related to this pass. Campaign 2 is really thinking about a capital brewery tour and tasting. So inviting hummingbirds to experience a tour and tasting to promote a prize people who use the pass can win. So complimentary tour and tasting, getting those people a very experiential marketing angle for a brewery. And then 3 is On Tap Craft Beverage Trail Forever. So inviting hummingbirds to use the pass to visit 2 breweries of their choice, share their experience. So it's a great drip campaign to continuously engage new hummingbirds who can build kind of what we call this like echo chamber about the pass. So it's one thing to go like, when you think about someone launching something for the first time, you want to create as much buzz up front as possible, right? Like we want the whole community to know exactly what we're doing and it like huge ripple effect. But then you think about, okay, what happens next? Like what happens when it like the buzz kind of fades? And we like to think about how do you get content creators dripping out content over time so this stays relevant and people are like, oh my gosh, it's still getting talked about. This is still a thing. So that's an angle we really like to think about as well. And finally, the Get Outdoors free passes like Hook and Paddle Passport. These are all so fun. I love like just getting ideas on just things to do by Bandwango customers you guys have. So 1, Passport launch kickoff, again, going with that kind of like, here it is, ta-da, like going to a launch event, cookouts, paddling, outdoor games, and more, like getting people excited to really experience the wholeness of the offer. Campaign 2, Summer on the Water. So inviting hummingbirds to use the passport to visit their favorite locations, show us how they're enjoying their time on the water. It's a very specific, like you do what you really like doing on the water and like do what's authentic and like true to you, but then document it and show us what you enjoyed about the experience. And then 3, Hook and Paddle class. So inviting a hummingbird and one of their guests to a special class to learn more about fishing, kayaking, or just getting outdoors in the area. What we found is really people love unique experiences. It's what's really excited our hummingbirds to opt into different campaigns. We just did one about a week ago at a restaurant that did like a new menu unveiling. We got to try like a ton of different food. It was very, very satisfying. I'm very grateful I got to go and then created a ton of content around it, which then everyone's like, oh my gosh, like I love coming here. I'm going to come back again because I didn't get this on the menu and I really love this cocktail. And now I want to bring my coworker. These experiences really leave a strong brand impression that I think consumers really value. It sets you apart from a lot of competitors and frankly, other things to do in the community. So I believe that is the last slide. I didn't get a final slide. Sorry, I kind of forgot. But again, I'm Emily. I would love to dive into Q&A with you, Erin, whether you have questions or other people do.
Yes, I do have questions for you. I'm so excited and like I want to make sure that we talk to people about how they can work with you and how we're going to work with you. Really quick, I am going to share a little bit about how one of our partners has used a local influencer to build a whole pass around her experiences. So we're going to do this really quick and then we'll jump into Q&A. So any questions that you have for Emily or I, feel free to put them in the chat while I'm going over this. But Visit Mesa launched their Adventure Explorer Passport, and this was in conjunction with a local influencer in their area. And according to that chart, she is a mid-tier. So she has about 200,000 followers. And this influencer, so these are the assets for the passports. You can see it was all branded in conjunction with Wild Joy Experiences, the influencer. Really, really cool use case here. So we also have a case study about this on our website, but they encourage that UGC. So as Emily talked about, they encourage people to use that hashtag, the Wild Joy with Visit Mesa. again, just highlighting the pass and the adventures that were on the pass, using that UGC on their landing page, in their ads. This is really helpful. We always encourage having a hashtag that people can point to with your experience passports so that you guys don't have to go take those photos, that people do it for you. So the brand alignment with Wildjoy secured for 2 years of co-branding rights, and the passport features 21 adventures in City Limitless or in Mesa, and then 8 Wildjoy curated adventures and endorsed experiences. So Wildjoy, I was stalking her on social media before this. She has posted reels, TikToks, a bunch of Instagram posts, which have driven overall views over 600,000 views, over 6,600 saves, over 18,000 likes, bunch of shares, and about 450 passport signups in 10 weeks. So driving not only those impressions, but also getting that first party data from this. So you want to know who that audience is that's interacting with these passports. You have real-time data with the Bandwango dashboard. So this is a real-time example of one of our clients that's using a local influencer for an entire campaign, which is also an option. Pretty cool there. But we are going to hop into questions. So to start, let me pull up mine. Let me just ask, what is your favorite Hummingbirds campaign that you've ever seen? So what's your star that you've seen?
Star. This one, it's like one we did a few years ago with Wallace Centers of Iowa. It's definitely like it's a nonprofit organization, but they were launching kind of this experiential Pizza on the Prairie event where you would drive basically like 45 minutes outside of Des Moines to Orient, Iowa, experience like homemade pizza with super fresh ingredients, live music. You're on the prairie. It was like super, super cool. But this client came to us because they were like, we don't know how to get young people to our events. And we're just like really struggling. And our own efforts, our own posts, our own emails like aren't getting the people here. And so we got 30 birds out to just like drum up a ton of content for that first night, get out on the prairie, and their waitlist filled. They sold out for that entire summer. Their waitlist for the next year was already full by the time they had went live, and they had just never seen that type of customer like ever engage in their brand before. And I just thought, we can't take 100% credit for their success. Like it was a really unique offering, but we can watch like our customers just like the influence felt like it didn't end. Like when the Hummingbird started talking about, then local media started to pick up on it because they started to see it. And I felt like it was just a really positive, like we're supporting a nonprofit. We're like giving people really cool things to do in their own community a little bit outside of, and it just like felt really good. And we get to work with them every year now because they just love the impact. So that's my feel good story.
I love it. No, that's yeah. So I think to go off of that, you never know what audience is going to be really interested in a passport that you have.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite example is Emily, our VP of Sales and Marketing. She works for Visit Houston, and they accidentally ran ads for their, I believe it was for like their beer trail, and they accidentally sent the ads to the audience that was supposed to be for their like kids attractions pass. And it ended up performing so well because the parents of the kids that were supposed to get this ad for an attractions pass ended up getting the ad for the beer trail, which they were interested in because, I mean, who doesn't want to drink when they're taking care of kids all the time? So it ended up, you never know who your audience is going to be that's really interested in a pass, and that's a good example of that. So,
I love it.
How can businesses ensure that their collaborations with these hummingbirds or with the local content creators align with their brand values and goals?
I think it's really thinking about how you set up a campaign and articulating what you're looking for, what you're trying to accomplish with the campaign. When we set up campaigns in our platform, our software, like we give customers the ability to really like think through those things and set it up in a way that hummingbirds can then look at it and then opt in. So kind of think of like a job board. You're kind of looking at different campaigns like, oh, here's the perk you get. Here's like what the brand is looking for. Here's what the brand cares about. Like if this feels exciting to you and that like you feel like compelled to be a part of this and agree that you'll, create the content and show up authentically, like please opt in. And then it's really up to the business. Like once you see those hummingbirds to go through and like okay, cool. Like this person does seem to talk about beer a lot. So this makes total sense that, we would want him to be part of this campaign because it feels very organic. So, I mean, it takes time to do this stuff, but like you would rather, go through and look through these individuals. And from my perspective, it's like, okay, you can find someone with 5,000 followers and like super exciting, right? But you can find someone who has 500 followers that talks about beer all the time, is like very, very loyal followers, like looking for his recommendations on the next brewery that's opening down the street. And like, what one would you rather choose? Like, to me, I'd always choose that person who like truly has a following based on some of those key things they like to talk about in their content.
Love that. Perfect. How can the organizations be involved in the content creation process? Is it up to the hummingbirds to come up with that all on their own? Do they go through an approval process with the organization? How does that work?
There's no approval process. You want to keep it as authentic as possible, which
Yep.
means like the way I document a burger might be different than the way you create a reel on like, I have to finish up one of my campaigns around like a meat campaign. So I'm thinking about burgers. So my documentation is probably different than someone else's from like
Yep.
how I do that. So we love to keep that freedom of creativity as, I don't know, wide as possible, but we love giving brands opportunity to give some guidance, because reality is like I want to like do something that like a brand is really excited about, but I want them to kind of give me some direction. Like, what do you really want to see? What do you want to see us emphasize in the content that you're trying to get more people to understand about? So we do give people the ability to kind of say like, here's what we're trying to accomplish with this. We'd love to see this, but like make a reel that like speaks to you.
Yep. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And what markets are hummingbirds currently available? So where are they available right now?
Where are we at today? I should have had my map. Oh, I was like, oh, the things you remember later. But I always like start in my little like circle. So it's Des Moines, and then we're in Iowa City, Cedar Rapids, Quad Cities, Kansas City, Omaha, and Lincoln. We're in Twin Cities, Madison, and Milwaukee. And then by the end of the year, we're aiming to be in 15 cities. So we are like a venture-backed technology company. So we've raised significant capital to be able to really bring this to a lot of markets, because it's proven to be a really viable model that companies really enjoy. So that's kind of like longer term plans too.
Awesome. Perfect. And for those of you watching, a little sneak peek, we're working through a partnership where Bandwango can help you with your hummingbirds, so that if you want to be hands off, you just want to say, we want this many local content creators, you'll be able to come to us and we'll work with the hummingbirds and with Emily and her team to make sure that it is as successful as possible. So we are working through that right now, but I did have a question on, for the markets that you're not quite in, how would you recommend them going about trying to find these local content creators and going through that vetting process?
Yeah. I have a guide. It's on the homepage of our website right now. It's like basically like how to find and work with local influencers, and really like if you're starting from scratch and DIYing it. We really like, one of our core values is abundance and generosity. We love giving this knowledge to people, because like we're not going to be in every city. So like there's a chance we probably won't be in your market. So we want to set you up to be successful. So if I was, really thinking about this and didn't have our platform to leverage, I would look through like the geolocations on Instagram. I'd look up hashtags that are very specific to a city. So sometimes it's like support local DSM, like I'm thinking about Des Moines, or DSM USA, Des Moines, Iowa. Like you see some of those like that pop up frequently in a city that you can start to look at what people use. So I would do a little bit of like combing through that. I mean, it's probably going to take like 3 to 5 hours if you really want to find like a large number of people. But then I would kind of look at like, what are other brands that are either part of your passport, or ones that you align with, or that are cool, that maybe locals are following and engaging with, and like go through their followers and who's engaging in their content. And then it's, really thinking about like, what do you want to offer them? Like, what do you want them to experience? What's in it for them? What's in it for you? And reaching out to them. Maybe it's over direct messages. Maybe you find an email for them if possible. And just putting it out there and seeing if it gets people excited. I think you'll get it it's a really interesting way to gather data as well. Like what do people get excited about, the things you put out there? From my perspective, it's usually been like a $50 value, being that sweet spot of people like, oh, cool, like this is totally worth it for me to like spend a lot of time creating content and like really articulating the message I want to put out to my audience. So that's, that's kind of how I would look at it from just like getting started.
Awesome. Perfect. And then we got a few questions in the Q&A. So Jennifer, if you will be sent a recording of this as soon as it renders afterwards, so you'll have that, and then it'll also be on the Bandwango website probably tomorrow. We just have to make sure it's uploaded correctly, so you'll be able to find it there. And then Kate, how do you take diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives into consideration in terms of who you are working with on the campaigns?
So I guess I'd probably have to clarify more of like, I'm assuming you mean like the content creator side. So I'll just go with that from what I think this question's maybe digging into. So for us, like anyone can be a hummingbird. So anyone who aligns with our brand and saying like you love supporting local businesses, you enjoy, using social media, can be part of this platform. And it's really up to the brands to decide who they want to work with. But we've really tried to articulate to brands like to be thoughtful in who they pick instead of just being like, oh, this person has 11,000 followers. Like that's not really thinking through the benefits of working with a diverse population of individuals who live, work, or play in the community you want to influence. And so, part of it's like how open is a brand to those conversations and how it like, is it a priority to them and how they make decisions? We're always going to advocate for that because it's how we've thought about building our community from the very beginning. But so we're navigating it differently, I would say, per customer.
Perfect. And with these hummingbirds, do they use all social media platforms? Is it Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter? Is it everything, or is it just a selection?
It's not everything, and there's a reason. So we have found, Facebook is the OG, right? Like that's where everything started. It's where you mostly have friends who are in your close proximity. Maybe you're like a kid's parent you're friends with on Facebook. Like that's kind of the behavior we see is like super, super local on Facebook. We don't love that you can't be like super public on Facebook. Like if you're on Instagram, you can have a public profile that anyone could come and visit and see your content. So to be honest, like their sweet spot of impact that we feel like we can make a dent in a local market because Instagram's way of like geolocation, hashtags, and just how long it's been around. Instagram's like the primary channel we point our customers to. There's no doubt we'll be on TikTok at some point, but like the reality is it's not excellent at driving local behavior. A lot of people get on TikTok because it's entertaining, where I think there's just a different intention you have when you log into Instagram. So you just kind of like, for us, it's about thinking through, can we actually drive local behavior with hummingbird content on TikTok? And right now I'm more skeptical. I'm becoming more and more open every month, honestly, because I'm seeing it. But ultimately, we want to provide the channels that we believe will ultimately add value to place-based brands. And so Instagram's the place that we're seeing the most impact today.
Yeah, awesome. And I did want to ask the example that you gave before of your like star campaign. When you were going through your presentation, I was thinking about how this can drive so much earned media as well. So getting those news outlets, getting these people involved that are going to write the articles for free because this content is out there and they're trying to drive business to local businesses as well. So has any of your organizations reported back on any earned media or like earned media attention that they've received because of these creators?
Yeah, I would need to kind of like comb through to think of specific examples. And I know some people are on our team, so they might be able to add to chat if there's something that recently happened. But what I've seen from like actually the local reporter perspective is like, I have a handful of them who are friends in the metro and they're like, no, we go to Instagram to source our stories or to like find things to talk about. And so it's interesting that like it could have resulted in a story that maybe like no one just told me about, but they got earned media because of some of that. So it's very indirect, but like the reality is this is how people are trying to like find their own stories to come up with is perusing Instagram. So when they see a bunch of people creating content, they're like, whoa, this must be really interesting, or there's some reason. So If I think of any, I'll have to let you know,
Yeah.
but I don't have
No,
any
it's
top.
perfect. With the examples that Lexi put in there with the different
Mhm.
destinations, I like a launch party always drives a bunch of earned media for our
Yeah.
clients. And there's
Yep.
just a few things, or a specific week, that example with Destination Madison, if you did the party on the patio week, that would
Mhm.
drive earned media for sure. So I think that this is, as you mentioned, a full funnel approach. It's not
Mhm.
just that you're getting these content creators involved in what you are doing, but it
Yeah.
really is getting that brand recognition and driving those people to either stay in your destination or spend money at those local businesses. So,
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
perfect. Well, I think if anyone has any last minute questions, you can throw them in. But is there anything else you wanted to mention, Emily, before we hop off?
No, I guess, if people have questions on how, like, what this could look like for them, like, our team is all about like, brainstorming ideas. Like, you saw the slides, like, we want to think through these things with you to help ensure it would be a successful initiative. So, we're always open to those conversations to see if it's a good fit. And yeah, we're just grateful for the opportunity to do what we do and amplify local communities and local organizations. It's really at the heart of like our mission. And so, it's just awesome to be able to share that with you. So thank you.
Well, yeah, no, I love that we had you on because our mission is so close. We just want
Yeah,
to drive people to local businesses. We want people to stay in those local markets. So,
exactly. Yep.
um, awesome. It looks like maybe. Okay, so Kate says, is there a way for us to use as a destination to work with your hummingbirds in the cities you're already in?
Yeah. So, like a good example, if you are in Sioux Falls, for example, um, and you wanted to work with, like, get people to Sioux Falls, but we're not there, you could get like from Omaha, Lincoln, Des Moines, Twin Cities. That makes a lot of sense. So, yes, of course, that to me is a really great opportunity to get out of state people to your state or whatever your location is. So, the short answer is yes.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, for our current clients that are on the call, don't forget that we have a town hall coming up on May 31st to learn about all new things with Bandwango and what's to come. And then next month, our webinar is going to be with Simple View, talking about that new partnership that we have with them. So that'll be at the end of June. But stay tuned. We'll have all of our updates and announcements coming out at the end of May. And we look forward to seeing you next month. So thank you all for joining. And any questions, feel free to message me or Emily, and we're happy to help. So thank you all. Have a great day.
Bye.